Well, today I would like to talk about the garden. I think when a lot of people think of the garden, they think of the Garden of Eden. I know in poetry and in art and in religion and in history, and I know just personally, when I think of the garden, I think of the Garden of Eden. And the Garden of Eden is kind of like an analogy for the most beautiful place that ever existed. Uh, Adam and Eve had everything. Adam was probably the most healthy, handsome person, and Eve was probably the most beautiful woman ever created. And the animals were friendly, and they had food. They didn't have to work, and there was peace and happiness. And it's just kind of like the most beautiful place, like an ideal. So anyway, I used this analogy um, as if we grew up, which most of us didn't, in a family that was perfect, say for example, a family that would lead to growing up and being emotionally healthy, say for example. Let's compare it to the garden. A perfect family that most of us probably don't know. But anyway, if it was the perfect family, let me just describe it. It would be a family where it was okay to be human. It was okay to make mistakes, that nobody was going to read you the riot act. It was okay to be who you were. It was okay to think what you were thinking and to say it. It would be okay to want what you want and to say it. It would be okay to think what you think and to say it. It would be okay to feel what you feel and to express it. It'd be okay to be the person who you are and just to simply be it, and you would be accepted. But and it would be a place where you could laugh and have fun. But most of us didn't grow up in that sort of home. Most of us grew up in or a lot of us rather, grew up in a home where we were told that we were meant to be seen and not heard. We were taught that the only behavior that was acceptable was being a parrot. Whatever our parents or our teachers taught us, we just were there to parrot back and to agree with everything that they believed. And that's the world we grew up in. I know there was one famous Canadian singer, and she was older. I think she was a young teenager, and she thought her name was Jesus Christ. And I think a lot of us can kind of relate to that abuse. Anyway, there's been a lot of study done on that in the field of addictions and depression and anxiety. And that's the field I've been involved in now for quite a long time, and it's been my own personal experience. But one psychiatrist who I've just come to know about recently, his name is Colin Ross, and he's originally from Winnipeg. He became a psychiatrist there. But I think for the last 30 years, he's been working in Texas, and he's been dealing with the relationship between trauma and, addictions and mental health issues. And he said that what he learned um, going to school, he had to unlearn so much of that because it was just wrong. Like things like incest, where they were taught that it didn't even exist, that it was just in people's imagination. And so the field was kind of like, to a great extent, in denial. So he said he had to learn what was really happening from the experts, and the experts were the patients. And he said it was fairly simple, if you just talk to the patients and ask them, like, what happened, like, why? And these stories would come out of, abuse and trauma that people have suffered. And you could directly related to situations like addictions and trauma. So anyway, he's I just got his book and I'm going through it, but he spent most of his career helping people recover and setting up programs, community programs where people can, you know, get back to being who they really are and dealing with this shame and trauma, which is really, really interesting. And another mentor of mine is Gabor Mate, who is from Vancouver, a doctor in Vancouver, and he spent 12 years working with the people in East Vancouver. You know, the worst place in Canada for heroin addiction and addiction. And he wrote a book that I read last summer. It was called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And he talked about, you know, all the stories of the people that he dealt with and the trauma that they suffered and the abuse and how it led directly to, you know, whether it was alcoholism, drug addiction, or mental health problems. And Gabor Mate says that addiction is always the result of childhood trauma. And I've taken his course, and I've learned so much from him. But anyway, I just wanted to quote something that he said because he said it so beautifully, and he's kind of summed up a lot of what I believe and what I've come to understand myself in just a short statement. So I just want to, so listen carefully because this is really quite profound what he said. He said, addiction is not a choice. It is a response to human suffering. Addiction is an attempt to escape suffering. What people need in response to addiction is not judgment and not simply symptom control. They need to be helped to heal from their trauma. The more hurt that people are, the more they need to escape. Addiction was not the problem. The problem was people had a lot of emotional pain that they didn't know what to deal with. So the addiction was an attempt to solve a problem. People have a problem that they don't know what to do with. People have deep emotional pain that they don't know how to resolve on their own. That sums up perfectly what I've gone through personally myself and come to realize, and the people that I deal with, I've come to realize that this is the essence of our addiction and our trauma. So what both Colin Ross and Gabor Mate and other people like John Bradshaw realize is what we need is community to heal from these wounds, from this trauma. And that's fortunately the work I'm involved in now. And so what I say is we have to get back to the garden. We grew up in families that were dysfunctional. We grew up in families that traumatized us, that pushed us into hiding, that turned us into addicts, that turned us into codependents. So to heal, we have to get back to the garden. And we have to create more or less a family where it's okay to be human. To create an environment where it's okay to have fun, it's okay to laugh. To create an environment, a place where it's okay to make mistakes and nobody's going to jump on your head or read you the riot act. It's okay to be human, to make mistakes. It's okay to feel what you're feeling and to say it. It's okay to think what you think and to say it. It's okay to want what you want and to say it. It's okay to be who you are and to come out of hiding and be it, and to relate with other people and to find out that it's okay to tell your story to other people, and other people can tell you that they understand and they care about you and they want you to do well. And people can be kind and people can be loving. And this is an amazing process when you realize that, you know, other people can be okay. I can be who I am in the presence, in conversation with other people. And this, on an ongoing basis, this is how healing is done. It's in an analogy of getting back to the garden. of becoming a part of a family where you can be who you really are and come out of hiding. And this is how the healing is done. And even though this family is a stepping stone, it's a huge, huge stepping stone, because one thing I've learned is you can't recover in a bubble. And a lot of programs that they rave about, in actual effect, they don't work, because just say, for example, you go away for 2 months, 6 months, and let's call the program Happy Valley. I'm just making that up, but say you go to Happy Valley for 6 months, and you're in a place where you don't have to work. uh, you have a nice place to live, and they provide your meals, and you have meetings every day, but it's not too complicated. You just spend the time walking through gardens and trees and stuff. And you're with people who are happy, and everybody's agreed, yeah, this is great, we're healed, we're doing better. And I'm not knocking these programs, they're good, but the reason they don't work is because you have to go back to reality, back to the world that we live in. And almost invariably, these people go back to whether it's using or go back to what they came from, because this is the real world. And if you're going to heal, you have to be able to function in the real world. So the garden, or something that's going to work, has to be something on an ongoing basis, not just for a few months, not just for 6 months, but an ongoing basis where you're with a family and it's okay to be human, and you're growing and you're overcoming and you're becoming who you really are. And then, well, this is what happened to me. I'll just tell my story, because when I was going through this process, I was really reticent about, being myself, with, say, my relatives, or people I work with, or friends that I had, because I just had never done that before. The precious things I kept to myself, the hurtful things, the embarrassing things, I kept them to myself. And why would I tell anybody to make me look bad, Um, and there was shame involved, and that's what happens. But anyway, but really, I believed in myself, and these things that I did, they were just part of my story, and a lot of them were really incredible things that happened to me. But I didn't want to tell anybody anything that was really personal, that was precious to me, because I didn't want to be laughed at, I didn't want to be judged, I didn't want to be criticized, I didn't want to be threatened. So when I was coming out of hiding, like, okay, it's okay to be in a group and to tell, these stories. It's beautiful, and it makes you feel so good to do that. But my relatives. But I found that, when I started coming out, and when I was doing presentations too, I was always, like these presentations I'm doing now. When I began doing this, I was, I don't know about telling this story. But when I told the story, I said, this is great. I love doing it. And I'm helping other people. So anyway, uh, uh, when I started telling people, coming out of hiding, people like me even better. It was, hey, this is easy, and life just became so easy, because I didn't have to think about what I was going to say. I just, be myself, tell it the way it is. And it's just a beautiful thing. But you can't live in a bubble. So you have to live in our society. So the garden is a place where you learn to come out of hiding and be who you really are. And other people can be kind and loving, and we can function relating with other people. And this is kind of like training. And then we step out into the real world, and we become the people we are. And it's a jungle out there. Yeah, it's not, it can be a mean and a nasty place, but we can do quite well, once we believe in ourselves and once healing takes place. So anyway, that's the work that I do now, and I just love doing. And I'm just so excited, because I mean, it's really working, and nothing makes me happier than to see people recover, and to see this process taking place, and to see people smiling, and people saying, I love this family. you know but anyway, don't believe a word I say. the only the only thing that really matters is what the people say, what the patients say. And if the patients say that they're recovering, that they're happier than they've ever been, listen to them. That's the only people you listen to. Don't listen to anybody's statistics about how great this program works or doesn't. Listen to the people in what they say. Are they recovering? Or, but anyway, I was happy to, bring out this analogy of the garden. And I do believe, that, to heal, we have to get back to the garden. So anyway, that's it for this time. We'll see you in a little while. Bye for now.